In a world where being overweight, overly stressed, and sleep deprived is the norm, the premise is simple. By consistently engaging in healthy habits that the majority of people tend to avoid, you will set yourself apart from the masses and advance to the upper end of the distribution. And to understand how you can get ahead of 95% of people, we first need to grasp what the distribution looks like. First, we'll study the habits and the behaviors of the average person to determine how to climb to the top. And from there, we'll start to engineer a path to build a lifestyle that enables you to reach your full body potential. First, we're going to be talking about sleep because almost 40% of adults are getting less than 7 hours of sleep per night. Now, you can't function well if you're sleep deprived, and it might seem like common sense, yet many underestimate the negative impact of poor sleep hygiene on their lives. Being sleep deprived doesn't mean that you've been awake for 62 hours straight. Instead, it means that you've been accumulating a sleep debt for an extended period of time. More than that, this is not only about quantity, it's also about quality. As sleeping longer doesn't automatically improve the quality of your sleep, and most people tend to confuse sleeping more with sleeping better. Additionally, trying to catch up on sleep by sleeping in on the weekends, which is something that people tend to do, can be worse because it breaks the consistent sleep cycle. And you've likely heard that the recommendation was to aim for 8 to 9 hours per night, believing that it will transform your life. Now, it might or it might just not. Because these are recommendations that are based on averages. And instead, the most important thing that you want to do is finding your ideal sleep pattern. Now, you have to iterate, you have to try it out. This may take days, weeks, or even months of experimentation. But once you find what works for you, once you find your ideal sleep pattern, you've essentially found a cheat code to your life. Now, this method is basically conducting an experiment on yourself and testing. Now, for the majority of people, the common issue is to go to bed too late and in poor conditions for optimal recovery. So the first thing to do here is to set gradually a realistic deadline that aligns with your sleep needs and wake up time demands. Now, if tomorrow you suddenly were to try to go to bed at 10 p.m. instead of 2 a.m., your circadian rhythm, which is your biological clock, it will be unable to adapt this quickly to this new sleep pattern. Instead, you want to gradually turn back the clock by 15 or 20-minute increments each day until you reach your ideal bedtime. So when do you know it's ideal and you found it? Well, it's when you feel rested. When you wake up, you don't fall asleep during the day. You don't need 3 cups of caffeine to stimulate you, and your focus is great. So the next thing is you need to eliminate the distractors to improve the quality of your sleep. And the biggest enemies are first, caffeine. You need to be aware of the fact that it has a half life of about 8 to 10 hours in your system, which means that after 8 to 10 hours, half of the caffeine you consume has been eliminated. So, what you need to do is cut down caffeine intake at least 8 to 10 hours before going to bed. Because while some people are more tolerant to it, most can fall asleep if they're being stimulated by caffeine. The second blocker is screens. It's not just about the blue light from your phone that disrupts the sleep hormone release. It's also the stimulation and the excitement they induce, which are not compatible with sleep. Now, these are the two main blockers that people need to avoid. That being said, you may have some different factors that are present in your life right now and that you need to get rid of if you want to optimize your sleep. Start with a ritual that will be personal and doesn't need to be complicated. Start about 40 minutes before bed. For example, my own routine includes a shower, a reading, and then breath work before going to bed. Eventually, your brain is going to start to encode this sequence and it knows it will occur, facilitating the transition. The second thing that will set you apart from 95% of people is going to be your nutrition habits, because 2/3 of Americans are either overweight or obese. To me, many people struggle with their weight because they lack basic nutrition guidelines and they're being misled by marketing. So let me take you through the basic stuff you need to be aware of in order to adjust your diet yourself. First things first, there are two things that you need to be aware of. There are micronutrients and macronutrients. Micronutrients, they include vitamins and minerals. They are essential for bodily functions and they're consumed in small amounts in the food that you ingest. Second thing are macronutrients, and they consist in proteins, carbohydrates, and fats. These you consume in larger quantities and they're necessary for your body, each playing unique roles. Now, to the eye of nature, no macronutrients is better than the other. They just all serve different purposes. And these nutrients are used and transferred by your body as energy, which you can measure in calories. And your body requires a certain amount of energy to function. If you consume more than this amount, you transform the energy into fat and you store it. And in contrast, if you eat less than this amount, your body will use stored fat and transform it in energy. That number depends on your age, gender, physical activity, occupation, everything, but you can estimate this number for free online, and I'll put down the best calculator that I've found in the description box. And that's pretty much all you have to know in order to manage your weight. Now, a major issue is that with the typical American diet, you find the overconsumption of rich and processed foods, which are often high in macronutrients and very low in micronutrients due to the processing and the preservation methods. To improve your diet, simplifying and balancing it is key. Focus on whole foods and learn how to manage your caloric intake by reading food labels. This will enable you to keep track of how many calories are in the portion that you're eating. And now let's just say that you want to lose the weight. Here are the 3 steps that you will need to take. First, you calculate your daily caloric intake using the calculator that I've linked in the description or another one, doesn't matter. Second, you start reading food labels and keep track of your intake to monitor how many calories you're consuming. 3, from there, if you want to lose weight, you eat 10 to 20% less calories in a consistent manner and you'll just magically lose the weight. Now, this isn't really magical, it's thermodynamics, and it's well explained using just physics. The problem is that marketing has understood that most people don't know anything about nutrition. And that's when they're starting to sell the idea that dieting is a secret remedy. But you have to be aware of the fact that 95% of diet fail. And even if you do diet and you lose the weight, the vast majority of people regain it after a few months or years. This is not about diet. This is about you making durable change in your nutrition. And for that to happen, the first thing that you need is to understand how the whole system works. But remember that simplifying and balancing is key. Next, 76 of people don't meet the recommended guidelines for physical activity. And exercise is crucial to help you regulate both your nutrition and your sleep. So to me, this should be the first step to initiate the change. And the most impactful habit that you need to establish is building a consistent exercise routine. And I recommend the gym because it's widely accessible. And besides helping you regulate your body, it also allows you to shape it. However, if you play a sport younger and you want to return to that, or you've been thinking about starting another activity, by all means, just go for that. The only thing that matters is that you're exercising consistently and you're going in hard. And I say the gym because in the case of the gym, money will never be the problem because there are low-cost gyms and it won't be the proximity either as they're just everywhere. But the problem is going to be the fact that you're most likely going to be starting alone. It's you against you, which is exactly what you're looking for if you want to upgrade your character. And in order to build a sustainable exercise routine, you will need to first make it a non-negotiable. If it comes fifth on your list of things to do during your day, chances are that you'll be too tired to engage after the top of the list. That is what has to be your priority. Your health should be placed first because nothing else really matters. Examine your energy levels during your day and match them with your availabilities to find the perfect time for you to exercise, go to the gym, whatever. Whether it's before work or at lunchtime, make the time for it. And if you can free up 3 to 5 hours per week for your own health, I don't know what to tell you. Second, you need to know exactly why you're doing it. A superficial and external motivator won't get you very far. People that come to the gym because they want a summer body, they stop after 2 weeks when they realize the effort that this is going to take. And once realized, summer body will not be a strong enough motivator to get you through it. So ask yourself, go deep. What do you need to get back in shape? What do you need to lose the excess fat? I'm using the word need here because this is exactly what you're looking for. Wanting isn't going to be enough of a strong drive to get you where you want to be. You must cultivate the need for change. Finally, start slow, be patient, and focus on immediate outcomes. Start slow, but be consistent. As a coach, I'd much rather see someone start with 20 to 40 minute sessions frequently rather than sporadically putting yourself through a 2-hour workout just because you feel the guilt of not coming in regularly. And when it comes to body results, don't expect it to be instantaneous. If you've been neglecting your health and your fitness for months and years, why would you expect your body to change in a matter of days? Instead, what you want to do is focus on immediate outcomes. What you can see, what you feel, maybe it could be the pride that you get from completing a workout, or maybe it's the bodily sensations of the endorphins kicking in once you're done training. I talk about that in depth in step 1, which you can get for free. I'm going to put that in the description. Now, the last thing on your agenda, if you want to get at the top of the distribution, is to effectively manage your stress levels. 55% of Americans are stressed daily. More than that, most people say that they need help managing it. And in a world where the vast majority of people fail to regulate their stress efficiently, you certainly gain the edge if you do. The problem isn't about stress itself. Stress is an adaptive system that's necessary for you to be active, to move towards your goals, to engage in activities, to get out of bed in the morning. Stress isn't the problem. The issue lies in the source. It's the quantity of stress that you're facing and your efficacy in coping with it. That being said, exposing your body to high levels of stress consistently is detrimental. And in today's world filled with stressors everywhere, you must learn and develop your own coping strategies, which cannot be avoidance, by the way, as it just delays the problem. And that's what most people tend to do. They repress the feeling of being stressed as much as possible, and it doesn't work. You just stack it inside of you and it ends up backfiring, and that's when you start to act it out. You scream at your friends, you scream at your children, you behave in a passive aggressive way at school, at work. You start to get insomnia symptoms and it starts to manifest itself in your dreams. Lesson is that you cannot avoid it. It will find another way out eventually. You need to learn how to work with it. So the first step is to identify the main negative stressors and either limit them or completely eliminate them. For example, I've noticed that in my case, social media was a negative stressor in my life. It provokes this inner tension, a sort of frustration and feeling of restrictions and limitations in my actions. That for me is a significant source of stress. And the way I dealt with it is that I drastically reduced its use. Because the biggest problem is overexposure to potential stressors. Every day you're triggered by all these stimuli, creating a deep friction that you can feel in your body, and that will start to manifest. Your muscles are tense, your heart rate is constantly elevated throughout the day. Your eye movements are rapid, everything's moving faster, it's blurry, the focus is hard, your attention is lost. So the key is to slow it down. Reduce the noise, minimize the distractions, take more time in the present moment, and stop heavily projecting yourself in the future. And that's especially the case for more anxious people. Easier said than done, I know, but you need to find your own pace. You need to find something that works for you. You need to eliminate the things that make you feel stressed out and that aren't worth the wait. Now, when it comes to practical tools, I think that the best tool that you need to develop is breath work, as it will do 2 things. First, it will anchor you in the present moment, in the now, as you have to focus and you have to be conscious of your breathing. And second, it will slow your whole system down, disengaging the stress response altogether. There are many exercises out there, and you have to find what works for you. Again, there's belly breathing, physiological insight, double inhale, the 4-4-4 breathing technique. There's plenty of information that's out there. Just need to test it out. So try that out, see what works for you, practice it daily, and then use it. Look at your body and listen to it. You need to develop the ability to assess your stress levels at any time. Don't dodge it, just lean into it. This is just your body trying to tell you that you're in a state of intense activation. From there, what you want to do is condition yourself to use this breathwork technique that you've chosen whenever you feel like stress is taking over. So every time that you need it, take 5 minutes, set a timer, and you put yourself in front of a white wall, no possible distraction whatsoever, and you practice your breathing technique. Sounds stupid simple, and yet if you do it, trust me, over time, it will change your life. If you implement these 4 habits in your life and you stick to it, you will find yourself at the superior end of the distribution. It is simply about stacking sustainable habits that allows your body's optimal functioning. And yet when you look at the stats, no one wants to do it. But if you don't do it, you end up being trapped in your own body. So choose the life that you want for yourself, even it's harder than following the normal path. So let me know if you want a part 2 of this video about how to program your mind to get ahead of 95% of people. And as always, I hope this helps. Trust the process.